Welcome to the latest Evershed Sutherland Legal Insights podcast.
Welcome to the third in our podcast series, focusing on employment and education-related matters in the Middle East. My name is Corinne Sobers, and I'm a Principal Associate at Evershed Sutherland. I've been an employment lawyer for over 10 years, with a particular focus on the education sector. I am based in our office in Doha and advise on employment, labour and education-related matters in Qatar, Saudi Arabia and the UAE, alongside my colleagues in our regional Middle East employment team. Today, I'm really pleased to be joined by Lucrezia from our commercial team to talk about social media and the way in which we use online resources. It's constantly developing and changing at great pace. While social media and online technology are great tools to use, and also arguably cannot be escaped given their wide and popular use in society and in the work environments, they also pose challenges and risks, which are continually evolving and need to be navigated carefully by institutions.
Thanks, Corinne. This is a great topic. Corinne, what are some of the key challenges you see facing educational institutions with the use of social media in online resources?
Teaching pupils, staff and students of the risks of using online resources and social media, such as the potential legal implications of incorrectly using these tools, the impact on well-being and mental health, incorrect or inappropriate information being online and easily accessible, plagiarism and cybercrimes, bullying and abuse. As the tech world is evolving so quickly, it's also a challenge to keep up to date, to in turn be able to make sure that how social media, etc. is used and managed in the educational sphere is still relevant and appropriate. Online usage also raises a number of challenges in terms of protecting the interests of children and safeguarding their well-being. There needs to be an understanding of the risks online and how these can be identified. Navigating the legal and cultural implications of online usage can also be difficult. For example, there can be many potential ramifications, including the balance between free speech and censorship online, the fact that material may have a forever footprint, criminal issues such as defamation and harassment, photos and videos being posted without appropriate consent, privacy, and so on. All of these challenges need to be considered in the context of the Middle East legal and social culture. So Lucrezia, as a specialist in privacy, data protection and cybercrimes in the Middle East, perhaps you could explain some of these legal risks related to social media and online resources in the region.
In the first place, nowadays children navigate the internet and use social media at a very early age. Almost everything is just one click away, and unsupervised use of devices with internet access can be extremely dangerous. I'm not just thinking about privacy risk, but also the effects of online conduct that may be sometimes overlooked. What we do online can have legal consequences, and not just for adults. For example, in the UAE, the age for juvenile criminal liability is 12. So children could be caught for breaches they do not even know exist. The internet can be seen as a place with no rules and no laws, especially by the youngest. This is, of course, not the case. For example, in the UAE, defaming or harassing online and publishing photographs or videos of people on the internet without their consent are criminal offenses punished by the cybercrime law. Unfortunately, we have become used to these conducts, but this doesn't mean they are accepted or legal. Furthermore, the percentage of minors suffering from online bullying from peers is ever growing, with devastating effects on children's mental health. It is key that everyone is fully aware that these conducts are considered crimes across the region and could ultimately lead to criminal liability. We cannot talk about the internet and social media in educational institutions without mentioning privacy and data protection. As we all know, the old days where pupils use paper books are long gone. Teachers and students are constantly logged on, feeding the internet with their personal data. Teachers need to be very careful about publishing data and information about students and colleagues, as they risk infringing the privacy rights of those persons by oversharing images of the school environment and activities. The same privacy risk is relevant to educational institutions. Many schools have social media accounts and websites where they share pictures of pupils' daily life at school. Educational institutions also often provide devices such as tablets and laptops to students for use during and after school time that can potentially also be used to access social media. This makes schools responsible for a huge amount of personal data that must be duly managed and protected in accordance with the law. The more data is collected, the more important it is to stay on top of and comply with legal requirements, and to have solid processes in place to prevent breaches. I cannot stress this enough. When people think about data breaches, they often think about hackers and the huge scandals that have happened worldwide. However, any unauthorized disclosure of personal data is considered a breach across the region and can lead to fines or penalties. These are only some of the risks arising from the use of internet resources and social media, but I believe they are the main ones in an educational environment. Corinne, what can institutions do to address the challenges we have discussed and mitigate any risks?
Well, the key area in which we are advising institutions is first and foremost in relation to their policies. The principles of online safety should be reflected in an institution's policies and practice where appropriate, and communicated with staff, pupils, and parents. This could include, for example, implementing a policy specifically in relation to the use of social media and the internet in general, to manage expectations and standards in respect of behaviour, and to provide guidelines for appropriate use, with a view to reducing the risks and challenges I initially mentioned. All other policies that an institution may have in place also need to be reviewed to ensure that they are A, fit for purpose in this context, and B, consistent with any specific social media policy, and ultimately C, are consistent with the data protection and privacy law in force. These may include, for example, codes of behaviour and handbooks for staff, students and parents, and any bullying policies are likely to need to include references to unacceptable and acceptable use of online resources, and explain clearly that, to a large degree, the same behaviour that the institution would expect in person is also expected online. Any disciplinary policy may need to address potential sanctions for inappropriate behaviour online, as from an employment law perspective, it's important to address the potential consequences of improper use of online material and or not complying with policies in place. Safeguarding policies may need to specifically reference the risks and signs of inappropriate behaviour online, and when social media may be impacting an individual negatively, and they should provide clear processes for reporting incidents or concerns in the context of child protection. And as Lucrezia mentioned, data protection. Intellectual property and privacy policies will typically need references to using online tools and how to manage and protect data when using such resources. Once the appropriate policies are in place setting the standards, the next key step is providing training on the policies and what they all mean in practice. Any training, for example, in relation to onboarding, safeguarding updates, these need to be reviewed in the lens of the policies in place so that everybody knows what's expected of them, but is also educated as to how to implement policies when needed. It's not only managers that need to be upskilled, but the whole community. For any policies to be effective, everybody needs to understand what they mean in the context of day-to-day dealings. It's important, therefore, to provide training on key legal compliance issues and any reputational risks that may result from inappropriate use of online tools. It's also important to focus on the underpinning knowledge and behaviours that can help pupils to navigate the online world safely and confidently. This teaching could be built into existing lessons across the curriculum, covered within specific online safety lessons, or covered using school-wide approaches. We are also working with clients to undertake audits of risks that may arise and ensuring safeguards are put in place to mitigate those risks.
Thanks, Corinne. So, in summary, what are the key takeaways for institutions?
Well, number one, make sure that clear policies that are both legally and culturally appropriate are in place. 2, educate all to understand the risks and challenges of social media and online materials, and provide regular training in relation to how to use the policies in place, explaining how the policies are there to guide and support them. 3, create a whole community approach involving staff, pupils and parents to raise awareness and to work together to use online resources in a positive and safe way. And finally, 4, seek professional advice where needed. If you need advice in relation to policies, procedures, training, or managing social media related issues, or would like to know more about our education sector experience, please do get in touch.
Thank you for listening to the Evershed Sutherland Legal Insights podcast.